hello, guys. By the way, I'm wearing my hat that a lot of you, what does that mean? It's not the year of my birth. It may be the year of a birth of a particular country in this world. Like, subscribe, and comment which country. That's the beginning of this particular episode, starring Lieutenant Colonel Dan Horst, who is both a Tamada, he's learned how to do it and has come and done it at our restaurant, but he's also a man that I wanted to ask about this concept of being a Christican. That is a term that I have fashioned with my friend Uncle Seth. A Christican is an American nationalist who calls himself a Christian, and it's always unsure and unclear whether they're an American first or a Christian first. Of course, we have this problem, we being Orthodox Christians, everybody has this problem. But I'm very interested in the American problem, especially these days as we blow stuff out of the water on behalf of our beautiful country. Today on Having Things Lightly, brought to you by Conrad's Jerky Company. That's right here. I'm holding a bourbon sample. Conrad's Jerky Company. It's in the show notes. You can get yours at a great price. If you put in the promo code First Things, you get 10% off. It's delicious. People are starting to order it, and I'm proud to push it on you. In the true spirit of the American marketplace. I say that tongue in cheek. For you youngins who have never said that phrase, stay young, never say that phrase. However, what it means is something like, I'm selling something and I don't want to because I'm not always enamored with the marketplace, and yet here I am selling something, but it's delicious something. It's beef jerky we put in the pocket of our field workers as they head off to live 2 years overseas. Conrad's Jerky Company, and this is Heavy Things Lightly. All right, brother. So what happened? You came to the restaurant, and then you became a Tamada, and now you've given your life, the rest of your. Some people give their life to Christ, but you're giving it to the art of eating food at Keipi restaurant. Is that what happened to you? Am I fair to say that that's basically what's happening? That's why you're on this podcast.
Yeah, I like to still think I gave my life to Christ, but Keipi.
Some people say that. I've heard people say that, and then some people give their life to Keipi.
Yeah, I mean,
right now there's a whole. Everyone's like, "Is this guy gonna go blasphemy right now?" I'm just joking, guys. Guys, it's Dan Horst. How you doing?
I'm great, brother. How are you? Thanks for having me on. It's as I said earlier, it's always fun to talk with you and go deep. I don't do it enough, and even if lots of people are eavesdropping, the more the merrier, I suppose.
Well, I think I think there's something really cool about what we're going to talk about, I think. But let's make a toast. I'm doing it with a dark soda-like material, so I'm not drinking during the day. A lot of people, they accuse me of day drinking.
It looks like nighttime where you are.
That's weird, right? Because I have a light on in here.
I got lights on too, but it's the same time. It's sad. We're only 20 minutes away from each other. We should be in person.
I wanted to do it in person, but I couldn't hook up the studio. It's more complicated than you think.
I bet.
Our studio guy, Mike Sellis, is in Greece because he's Greek.
That's a good place to be.
Let's it is. Let's do a toast. How about this? To giving thanks for all that we have on this Thanksgiving week past. Yes. And maybe that the creator that gave us life will also give us a moment of insight here so we can say something of interest. So to gratitude to God, Gagi Marjos.
Gagi Marjos, and Jesus take the wheel.
Okay, let's start right there. So, Dan, you're a kind of a character in our world over here, and you've been a lot of places around the world, and you also listened, for better or for worse, to Uncle Seth, and now are interested in this word Christican. For those of you who are new to the word Christican, you should not be. It should actually be. It should go more viral than whatever 6'7" or whatever is going on. My grandson just said 6'7", bro.
10'4".
I don't know what that is, but
just say 10'4", then
10'4", 6'7". And right now, there's people going, that John guy's such a normie. Whatever. Here's the thing. Christicans is a really important term. It's this fusion of Christianity and Americans in this thing called Christicanism or something. I happen to believe it's accurate. Are you, Dan, a Christican?
I would say no. And I think the only reason Christican isn't gaining traction is because there's already a more verbose term for it, which is a white Christian nationalist.
Ooh,
or just a Christian nationalist. Let's get rid of, let's put the white thing aside, just Christian nationalist. I think that's what it means to me. And I don't claim, I will say this. I think I was one. I think as an extremist youth, I'm just joking, but as a militarized youth, officially militarized by our government, I was someone who put God and country. I always would say, "Oh, God's first," but in my actions and my thoughts, my country was basically there, if not above.
Interesting. So you sensed it. So that term made sense to you, or makes sense to you, as a type of reality, but not the one you're trying to live right now.
Correct.
Well, let's go. Yeah. We'll stay in the past for a second.
Yeah.
Did you think Jesus loves America? Was that kind of an idea that was intertwined in your head?
Yeah. Well, oh boy, this could get.
Well, by the way, I'm not saying that Jesus doesn't love America. I'm just, were those two ideas fused?
Man, this is going to be a fun answer. Okay. So we're going to go back to my freshman year in college, and for whatever it's worth, spiritual background, I did not grow up going to church, but then I got into it. I got into the church through non-denominational youth groups in high school. And I actually pushed back against it. Then I felt Jesus was saying, "Hey, I'm here." The Holy Spirit was like, "I'm waiting for you to make a decision."
Right. Right.
That can be we can go longer on that story, but ultimately did that. Weirded my parents out as a result. But now I held on to it through ups and downs. But so in addition to that, I was definitely someone who loved my country. Right. And was steeped in that. And which is why I pursued going to West Point for college. And so there I was, no kidding, in my freshman year of world history, and this very probably one of the most influential professors I had. He was actually a major in the Army at that time. It was basically my first historical deep dive into the Enlightenment, and I interpreted that in that setting as America is here because of the Enlightenment. We are the ultimate product of the Enlightenment. And then back then, when I say Enlightenment, I say it as generally good, but a mixed bag.
That was back then.
Back in college, right? Like in my
mixed bag, but leaning toward good.
Yeah. And so I thought about America at its best is the ultimate essence of the ultimate product of the Enlightenment and of humans doing their best despite their sinful nature. So
that makes sense.
That's a long answer to does Jesus love? Yeah, he loves every country in my mind. He loves all people. But America, I thought, was uniquely, even with.
There it is. Maybe that's the word. That's the word.
Yeah.
America had a unique. Is that a Christican tenet, you think? America has a unique place.
Yeah, I would say so.
With Jesus.
I would imagine some folks think that. And again, I think I'm very leery of kind of making a straw man, like making a construct of a caricature of what this is. And we all know individuals who might kind of come under that. So I don't want to necessarily, but here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking God moved in history, and this is my opinion, right? No biblical or institutional teaching, but God moved, and America was almost at its best at the beginning, like a New Jerusalem kind of thing, right? Even found by deists, even if most of our founding fathers were deistic people, I would venture to say there was still the first Great Awakening happened around that time, just before that time, and then ushered in, which enabled the Second Great Awakening, in the early 1800s, right?
So that vision you have right there, we can get into.
Yeah.
And do you still hold to that as older Dan?
Not if I do, it's significantly more loosely.
All right, we'll get to the new Dan in a second because I want to hear what happened, because it's kind of, I think I'm tracing this because there's a lot of people listening that are probably on a similar path, or were in such a path. But here, go back to old Dan for a second.
Yeah. So thanks to this teacher, I'll call him Brad right now. I don't know if you'll ever listen to this. I might try to share this with him on LinkedIn. He retired as a general, actually, but
really.
Yeah. I wish I had stayed in better touch with him. I might have had a better Army career, but anyways. But because of this sort of exposure, this deep dive into the Enlightenment, and then it made me fall in love with America even more. That it made me want to major in American history, and so that was my major as an undergrad throughout college. And so, where was I going with that?
Well, hold on. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
As that person who's something like a Christican, at that stage in your life, serving in the military, did that include the ability to use force on behalf of a Christian nation called America? Were you comfortable? Was that part of your worldview as a Christican, or let's just say, if not yours, the worldview around you?
Even then, I wouldn't necessarily call America a Christian nation, but at its best, kind of was what at America at its best.
What were you doing with that question in your heart about getting trained in a way to, let's just say, hurt people in order to defend America? What about the Christian part? Did that ever convict you, or was it easy to coalesce those two ideas?
Yeah, I think, and funny enough, I just was listening to a podcast this morning. You would love this podcast. It's called Southside Rabbi. I want
to hear that.
Some extraordinarily faithful, devoted Jesus followers in the African American community in Florida. One of them is actually a famous Christian rapper. Really fun folks to listen to. But they're talking about they're deep diving theologically into what is the role of violence in Christianity in the kingdom of God, right? And I think in his pacifism, like the stance, right? And I think they basically said, I mean, if you look at the record, I mean, if you take the Old Testament, New Testament into, and I did do a lot of thinking about this, especially because my senior year in college at West Point was 9/11. So we knew things were happening in the future. And again, as young fighting age males, we were probably not the wisest in our way of seeking that, right? Wanting to go after.
You were the most energetic.
Right. But basically, there's a core curriculum at West Point. I mean, originally it's an engineering school, and I guess it still is, but we took, there's over 50% of our curriculum is core curriculum, and a lot of it is humanities, like 4 semesters of history, 2 semesters of English, a semester of philosophy, a semester of political science, a semester of international relations. And we go through just war theory. We go through the law of land warfare. We go through all those things and talk about, as an agent of the state, like, to me, to since Jesus, to commit violence on behalf of Jesus is not, I don't think that's biblical.
You're not feeling that?
Not feeling that. And I think, again, citing the Southside Rabbi podcast, they're talking about Peter, cutting the ear off of the guard, right? And
it's right there.
Jesus,
it's right there.
Jesus said,
like,
no, don't do that, and healed his ear. And then he said, okay, was Peter actually going for the ear, or was he going after the guy to kill the guy, right? And I think it's safe to say he was trying to kill the guy, but wasn't a trained fighter, got the ear instead. but clearly he was packing heat. He was packing that knife or sword most of the time he was walking with Jesus.
Right.
Right. So it wasn't like Jesus was saying, like, you're not supposed to have that knife. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have had that knife for like 3 years. But he misused it at that moment. And so that was not a.
What about you? Because they were giving you a knife or a gun or a plane,
Yeah,
or a radar to use to identify people that were going to get killed. So
as
what
an
about
agent of the
you in
state,
your heart?
yeah, as an agent of the state, I felt okay about it. I didn't bother
See,
me.
I
And
think that's what Uncle Seth. I think right there is where that's why his head pops off. I think because I think. By the way, this isn't you. I'm not talking about you, but
yeah,
or me. Maybe it's both of us. Maybe it's none of us. But I think what he's doing is this guy. If you don't know who Uncle Seth is, he's on this pod a lot. But basically, he's just my secular atheistic friend who rants and raves, and we have fun and fight, and he uses the F word, and then I do too, and it goes like that. But we stay friends, and I think what he would like, his head would pop off is right here. He's like, so let me get this straight. You're an agent of Jesus and then also an agent of the state. And I don't get it. Like, are you a bifurcated, like schizophrenic human? And I think that's what he doesn't like, because it's like, watch this Christican move. He's like, Christicans, get wealthy, spread the love, more jobs equals bigger company. And also you have way too much money than you should have. Are you a Christican? Because are you a bifurcated human that gets super, super duper wealthy, passes it on to your children, or do you give it to the poor? What happened to you guys? He's like, you guys seem to have two brains all the time. And I think something like that was going on with you, or not really. In other words, can a Christian, so St. George, right? Third century, St. George was a soldier and renowned, and he put his sword down. He's like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. And then he got martyred. I guess that's a question, right? And so you were in the military. I wasn't. How'd you wrestle with that?
Yeah, but I think that the thing that gives me the most peace reading for this for myself in scripture is like you read about the centurion, and the centurion is going on a limb when you try to put yourself in his shoes. He's a Roman centurion, like should be oppressing, have nothing to do with these people, keeping them contained and controlled.
Right.
And the Spirit touches him, and he's like, I got a son that's dying, and Jesus, you're my only hope. And Jesus says, and I might not have the words exactly right, but Jesus says, okay, let's go to him. I'm like, no. You don't have to go there. Just say the word, and I know he's going to be good. And then Jesus says, look at this guy. I've never seen such faith. He's almost like kind of putting down his fellow people, because he's saying, I've never seen such faith in someone. And he has it in a centurion, right? And then later on, even though it's about money, he's like rendering to Caesar what is to Caesar, right? And so we all have like worldly occupations.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
This is fascinating.
Yeah.
Now okay, finish this story, and then I got to ask you about monks, because not everybody has worldly occupations. Ba-doom-ching. Sure. Or they do.
Yeah.
Up on the mountain praying. So we'll get to that. But
yeah.
So then something changes where you're less likely to adopt this Christican bifurcated position, or at least you're less likely to sing the praises of the country and more likely to sing the praises of Jesus. Did that happen to you?
Yeah. And we'll just call that a 20-year journey, right? So I go to, I graduate West Point, go to tanker school, and then go to my post in Colorado. And then my first field training exercise was to go to Iraq. And a couple months into Iraq, I take a tank platoon and have it for the whole time there. There for a year almost. And, I think I was spared. God had a lot of like mercy on me. I didn't see a lot of horrific things, but I was extremely irritated at policy, or the lack of good policy from my little lieutenant point of view. Right. But I still felt like things were not going well upstream, up the chain. Right.
You could sense it.
Yeah. And then, funny enough, that first year in Iraq is when I deep dived into Russian literature, read War and Peace while I was out on a tank, and the brothers Karamazov. and some of the American classics too. I'd say
Look at
Steinbeck.
you.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And again, thanks. Going back to this history teacher of mine, he talked about it when he was in the Gulf War. He read War and Peace, and he had this romantic image of like every time he read a page of War and Peace, he yanked the page out and littered it into the desert, right? And then I was like, I want to be like this guy. And
yeah, that's sexy. I agree with that. I get
yeah.
it. No, it's like, yeah.
But anyhow, so I switch jobs in the Army. I go into this field called civil affairs, which is a very small niche specialty in the Army. But I say it's the closest thing that the Army has to the Peace Corps. Like as a joke, I say we go where they don't go. Like we're basically folks working with the populace wherever we are in conflict areas to
we get that here at this podcast called Heavy Things Lightly. I know about that life.
Like we basically are the folks, we're the huggers. We're supposed to get the folks on our side and help them and trying to do it in a smart way, not just like kicking out soccer balls and digging wells without thinking about it, but actually be thoughtful about it if we're doing it right. And then when bad things do happen, we do our best to help mitigate it as far as like compensate for things done badly, for collateral damage, things like that. So that was, aside from a short stint where I went to grad school for Russian history and taught Russian Eurasian history back at West Point, that was my main specialty in the Army. And then in that specialty, I had the chance to be attached to Special Forces folks in Afghanistan, was out in the bush with them for 2 different tours. I did a 6-month trip later on to Europe, where a lot of our focus was on countering violent extremism or countering nefarious influence.
How is this changing you? This shift toward, I'm not going to call it toward peace. I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad. Toward, I don't know, relational logistics. Is it changing you?
Well, let's fast forward to 2022. This is where Afghanistan is we pull out of Afghanistan and it's collapsing. This is September of 2021. And then February of 2022 is when Russia already invaded Ukraine back in 2014, but then they did it in 2022, like full stop. Right. And in a sort of, again, I retired as lieutenant colonel. I wasn't a big deal, but I invested my life into trying to make Afghanistan a better place and to keep, I would say fighting for Enlightenment principles, like democracy, Western civilization, so to speak. Right. And I took Ukraine's turn towards the West as a positive step. Right. And I'm one that doesn't bemoan Russian history, Russian culture. Like I'm a deep enthusiast of it, but I know that it's almost like for beautiful culture art to be made, it involves a lot of ugliness. You like the truth and beauty have to collide with the underground man for that friction to like beautiful things. Best,
guys, he went full Dostoevsky right there. I like it.
And anyhow, I just had a minor like crisis of purpose, like going to my shrink and being like crying, like everything I like spent the last 20 years has just all gone to crap. Like,
yes,
it's all gone to crap. Look who we have in the office right now. Like at post 2000.
Not a big fan. I see.
Yeah. And I feel like the Spirit comforted me and was just saying, like, in the midst of crying to my shrink, the Spirit was like, hey, this does not define you. This isn't what you are here for. You are here for.
That is a heavy load, though, Lieutenant Colonel Dan. That is a heavy load. That's a heavy load to see what you hoped was some sort of relational build break apart. Did it change your way of knowing Christ? Was there a different relationship to Christ in the church, or was that always being born? Do you remember a point when you went like, holy smokes, I'm not a Christican anymore, or I'm not in that same vein?
Yeah, I think even before the Afghanistan thing, so you know, it's my oldest son. We adopted him from Ethiopia. He came home at 6, and there was this really special moment when I was teaching at West Point where there was a candidate. You know, college candidates come in, and then this kid came in, and I could tell. You know, the Horn of Africa, the ethnicities in that area have a unique look about them, and I could tell this guy was Ethiopian or really close. Right. And then I was like, okay, I got to talk to this kid. So I'm like, everybody pop quiz, 5 minutes. And I threw them to the academic wolf of that and went out and had a chat with them. And he was adopted as well. His family that adopted him actually lived out in Ethiopia doing like young life, non-denominational ministry type stuff.
Young life.
Yeah. And, which I'm a fan of. I participated in college and stuff. And so, long story short, like our families, we grew close with him. Our families got somewhat tight. And then he asked me when he got commissioned to give him the oath of commission, right? To like, you know, raise your right hand. I solemnly swear, support the Constitution.
Oh, it was like an act of honor.
Yeah. He honored me with that. And then in my speech, like sometimes this was just like a singular family moment. Sometimes that's done en masse. And in this case, it was a special kind of one-off little family ceremony. And this is like 2020-ish, like middle of COVID. And I just said, so already before Afghanistan, I was like, you know, over time, I confess what I just told you, that I would say Christ was always first, but America was a close second. And in my actions and thought, it probably surpassed it as an idol. But now that 20 years later, almost, I'm married with children now. And now Christ is singularly there and country is far, far below.
Do you think that's a pattern among Protestants? Do you think that's a pattern, not since the pandemic, but since, I don't know, maybe since 9/11, that people are starting to lose faith in the thing called country?
I wouldn't tie it to Protestant. I wouldn't tie it to that.
What's going on then in your mind?
I don't know. I can tell you my journey. I can tell you my journey of just where, like, you know, I've had too much faith in this. I had my country as an idol that I put hope and faith in, and then I think thanks to church teaching, you know, I know we can speak in a judgmental way about different churches or denominations. I felt like I was always trying to, you know, my wife and I were always trying to go churches that teach, like, you know, the Word of God and
biblical churches or Bible based. Is that what you?
Yeah, and I think I think it's actually the church I go to here, where they kind of said, you know, our country, just like any other country, is a sinking ship. Like, it's not going to save you. Or, you know, John Prine, right?
The singer. Yeah, he was. Yeah, he had a big hit like a couple years ago, big giant hit, right?
Well, like maybe decades ago, but he's got that song, "Your Flag Decal Won't Get You Into Heaven Anymore."
That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, and that was like in the 70s or something. Yeah, but it's very, very relevant. But anyways,
it doesn't seem like even in the 70s, it doesn't. So let me put it like this: as an Orthodox guy, convert too. Don't forget.
Yeah.
I didn't serve in the military. I served in Peace Corps, but there was never a love of country. I tell you, when I got love of country is when I started coming home from doing this international development work.
As a Peace Corps country, or first things.
I was Peace Corps. I worked with IOCC. We did a number of projects. All of them combined got me to love country most, but I will say mostly because of air conditioning and roads. So did I love country or love stuff? I don't know. I never had a strong patriotic affinity. So
that's a rub. Yeah. You like, yeah. Well, I think you and I agree on this though, because I think when you talk about comfort, when I think about, so I got to spend a year in Korea, and this is a long time, like 20 years ago, after Iraq, and that was not a great, when it comes to devotion and following Jesus, it was not a great year for me in that regard. It wasn't like I lost faith. I just lost discipline. and not walking the walk, but did take part in the fellowship every now and then. And I think one thing that's really interesting about South Korea is that I think it's safe to say they might have a higher percentage of committed Christians in South Korea per capita than in the United States. And I remember another, you can call him a missionary. He's a fellowship leader, a ministry leader, mainly ministering to soldiers, but also Koreans came to. He talked about how Confucianism polluted the faith there. As far as like, these are faithful believers, but yet you see young pastors and older pastors, they're going to kowtow to the older pastors in a Confucian thing that's sort of enmeshed in their culture for decades, generations, right?
That's interesting.
And as soon as he said that, and maybe this is a good seed planting to like going to where, when did the Christian can go away or whatever? I don't know. But I remember that you know what? Like, that's just like America though, because our real God is the market. Our real church is the marketplace.
I agree.
Yeah. I figured you did. Yeah. I think we probably talked about it before.
We did.
Yeah.
Okay. Suss that out for 1 second with me though. I'm using you as a guinea pig, bro.
Yeah.
For people who are listening, Lieutenant Colonel Dan Horst is my Christican guinea pig who's not actually a Christican.
I know. I don't know what to say. Think about that.
So just answer honestly, and then it's fun. And then we can actually mix up on some stuff over why things are like this in this 2025, 26. But so just one more thing on this Christican part. So what are the guardrails in your biblical or Bible-based church that keep you away from falling into, in the Orthodoxy, it's kind of called philotism. It's not exactly the same, but it's sort of worshiping race or ethnicity or nation over Christ. Do you guys have guardrails, or have you invented guardrails? How do you stay away from such a heresy as that?
I mean, the simple answer, well, until I think of a more sophisticated one, is that I feel like Christ is the guardrail, almost like the Aristotelian mean, if you want to try to tie it to like another philosophy. Like, he's the golden mean in the middle of you you go too far right, it's not good. If you go too far left, it's not good.
Yeah.
It's got to be purple. But yes. I will say this, because I didn't mention this, and I think a key thing, the personal is political, and I think one of the favorite things that there's lots of wise people I've said, worldly wise people, but the main pastor I listen to says this too. There's like your locus, there's like your zone of control, your span of control, and your span of awareness, right? And so the more that we have media coming at us, like social TV, pick your medium, we're flooded with things that are beyond our scope of control or action. Like, we can't really control anything, but our scope of action, right? And I would say the majority of my life, adult life, I'm immersed with things that are beyond, and I worry about things that are beyond my scope of action. And in those 20 years, hey, I got married. Hey, started having kids. And I would say probably my biggest shortcoming as a husband and father is, again, being too focused on this span of awareness and worrying about things and not being present where my span of action has the most impact, where I can be the hands and feet of Jesus for my family. And I'd say being married to a partner equal in spiritual devotion and
love of Christ.
Views, like that keeps me. I mean,
can I throw you a curveball?
Yeah, man.
Again, this is going to be my Orthodox self coming at you, but not really at you. But I think I would have agreed with your span of action concept, and I think I do fundamentally. That generally we worry about things that are outside of our control. I get that. I do that all the time. Mm-hmm. But what's really cool in the Orthodox tradition, of which you are not, though you are very interesting whenever we have our conversations, I started to realize that actually It is in your span of action, but the tool is prayer. And most of us
Amen.
don't believe it.
Or if we do, we are horrible at walking the walk.
I will argue with you for a second. It's not the, oh, you mean the walk of prayer? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah. Praying,
Right, exactly.
praying,
Yo, we're
not
on the
only
same page.
praying,
We're on the same
praying
page.
and being mind present with God, but also
This
praying
is
with your hands
nice.
and feet too.
Yeah, I would say exactly that. I
Worship.
thought you meant walking the walk after your prayer, then going and doing the thing. I don't know, because that's usually a dead end. But if you look at Saint Seraphim of Seraph, Saint John of Shanghai, like they're actually addressing things on multiple planes, multiple layers that have to do with the sort of the salvation of the world / the cosmos / your soul. Because if you think like Saint Maximus says, the cosmos is a soul. The soul is a cosmos unto itself. And then you start to realize through prayer you can actually affect the entirety of things you can never ever fully understand. What? And can you affect it? This is where we can get into the Protestant Reformation. Well, no, of course but you're doing it as a participator, right, in the Holy Spirit. And so it actually is pretty freaky when you actually think about what you can control, but not through actions. And I think that's one of the really debilitating things of the West is they kept telling us that the prayers don't matter.
Which I
And
think is wrong. I don't agree with that.
you don't
But
agree with that.
I might be polluted with it, but I don't agree with it.
Me too. By the
Yeah.
way, me too. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
I think that pollution, though, is one of the risks that the early Protestant reformers took with uniting their hopes for their soul with their hopes for a future country, the golden, shiny city on the hill, all that stuff, all the
Mhm.
utopian movements of the early 1800s, the Second Great Awakening. That stuff, and for Orthodox, is like very dangerous stuff. It's
But to kind of
super
throw a
dangerous.
curveball back at you,
Do it.
would you say that the tendency, because the Orthodox Church, I would say, has its own Christican problem because its churches are affiliated with national identities. You got the Bulgarian Orthodox, the Serbian Orthodox Church,
This
the
is really good.
Russian Orthodox Church. So we're both guilty.
Well,
As
so
denominationally speaking, whatever.
let's take that apart for a second, because you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. It definitely presents uh, from the outside as an issue, with like the Bulgarians or the Russians, and
Mhm.
so let's
Yeah,
take that
especially
apart
with
for two
Ukraine
seconds.
and Georgia. That's very, very fascinating, cognitive warfare things happening there. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: the human weakness or the human inclination toward pride ain't going away.
Mm-hmm.
Not while we're carrying our flesh around on some level. But what the church is trying to say is we'll take that risk in favor of communing with you at a local level. We'll localize this worship in Georgian with Georgian music, and we'll Georgianize the thing for you so that you might be met where you are,
Yeah.
and then risk you turning your Georgian identity into an idol. And so
Yeah.
I get what you see on the outside. What I've always found on the inside is, since becoming a convert and then traveling to places like Georgia, Armenia, Greece, Ethiopia, Russia, all these places, is
Yeah.
when you actually participate in the hard road of assessees in these local places, pretty quickly, the priests, the monks, the good ones, they'll take you away from your national identity.
Yeah.
It's like they try to elevate you out of it.
I really like
But
what your anecdote about the Georgian family. It was like the hostess being like angry at these Russian folks coming in due to the
yes,
conflict recent, but then she says, like, I'm very angry at like basically Georgian migration issues, like as an analog to American migration issues, anger, hate, whatever. But then she's like, but her faith cannot deny them. Like her faith tells her she disobeys herself to obey Jesus, to let them in, to bring them to
yeah.
the table.
She's
Beautiful,
yeah, it's so
beautiful.
beautiful. She says, I
Yeah,
just know we're never going to shut the border because I just know who we are and we're never going to be able to do it.
yeah,
And they didn't. but
yeah.
But yeah, so I guess what I'm saying is
And
we're
I think
all subject to the.
Protestant churches has that same analog to what you're saying too. But man, I think there's a book, and I wouldn't call it serious history, but it's very fun, fascinating history. How the Irish saved civilization. And I'm not
Oh
Irish. Did you read that book?
no,
It's like 20, 30 years old,
it
but
sounds interesting.
yeah, but basically, it's like the Christmas tree. Like we have the Christmas tree, season's greetings, by the way, because it was like
Yes.
a pagan thing. And then Catholics back then were like, hey, we can just kind of spin it to make it a symbol of Christ's birth or something. Like I'm butchering this analogy, but you know what I'm saying.
No, you got it. No, we know. We baptized it. We baptized
Yeah.
the tree, and the tree became that which it already was. We just didn't see it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
There you
Yeah,
go. Amen. Yeah.
but it. So I guess let's just finish this. I have this weird thought in my head, which is
Yeah.
something like it feels like the temptation to national idol worship really exists across the spectrum at all times for all
Yes.
people.
Yeah, I would say
Which,
that. I would agree.
yeah, and I think,
Need a king. Like going back to like
yeah,
what's their names? Wanting Saul as the king. Like we want a king, and
that's right. That's right.
and then
And you think we're facing something like that? Do you think that's what this white nationalism is about? It's people giving into that temptation.
yeah, and again, I would call it Christian nationalism. I would say there's racial elements to it, but let's just kind of simplify it. Yeah, I think absolutely. I think there's a human tendency.
You're
And
not
I
a fan, am I right?
it's
You're
not
not a
just
fan.
Trump. I mean, it was Clinton too. I mean, Hillary was the chosen, like the king had his 8 years. Now it was the queen's turn, right? For
Yeah,
Hillary, it's like
that's
she was
true.
like
You're
her
right.
party against its own interest was like she's it. She's the one. She's anointed, right? The Bush Jr., right? I mean, it's the Kennedys. Like we like our kings and queens too. God, like our founding fathers are just probably rolling in their graves because of that.
Though, just to, yeah, this isn't about Protestants versus Orthodox. I'm not doing that right now, but we can. I like doing it, and I don't all. I often talk to Orthodox or Orthodox adjacent people, so we could
I guess
mix it up.
I'd rather be Orthodox adjacent than Christian can.
I think you are actually.
Yeah.
When we
So
talk.
just call me ortho adjunct.
Yeah, you're an ortho adjunct. I like that. Guys, adopt him. But we got to still get at him for one couple ideas. But real quick, do you think so? Here's the problem that I see when you see our presidents, and Trump will play any card pretty much in order to exert power. I mean, that's really, if people who don't think that are kind of weird. I mean, even if you like Trump, like, of course he's doing that. He's good at it. And most presidents, Clinton, everybody, Obama, this is part of the job. I get it. That's not my problem. Here's my problem. I want to ask you as a Protestant in this country who's trying to do biblical worship.
Trying to obey Jesus, yeah.
Trying to obey Jesus. The people around Trump right now who are most likely to give him advice on war, they seem to be Christians, bro. And they seem to like it. They seem to like the idea of extending power into the world. They don't sound very, I don't know, reticent to use a gun. They sound ready to roll. And I don't like it. And
I don't either.
Oh, you don't?
No. In ways, I mean, there's things that I am, yeah, I don't like the current manifestation of it. I don't like, let's just go just in the last week, of an Afghan migrant. I will use this as like a microcosm of maybe my larger opinion, but we have an Afghan refugee, an agent of the former Afghan state brought here on a special immigrant visa, shooting 2 National Guards people in Washington, D.C., who in my opinion, that's a waste of national resources to deploy our National Guard to D.C. So that's one, put that there. So they were made targets. And now they're using, and I don't know the motives of this person, but I do know I have a dear friend who is uh, wasn't brought home on special immigrant visa. He was an Afghan soldier, an employee of the United States, who through his wily instincts and world wisdom found himself here and was able to get um, the status, like the not refugee status, but asylum status. Um, and I know so many. I'm a where in New York City did you grow up?
Well, I lived in the Bronx for a long time and
Okay.
Upper West Side.
So on the Lower East Side, there's a restaurant called Khyber Pass, um, and that was my first exposure to anything culturally Afghan. And the seed was planted of just a fascination about the Afghan people and country and everything there, and it hasn't gone away. And they're beautiful people, I would say, sinful, just like any of us.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but this, what you are trying to do through Keipi, bringing the old world back, the enlightened, no pun intended, the enlightening things about the old world, bringing them back to bear as things that are meaningful and provide spiritual sustenance for us in addition to good food. Like Afghans get that.
By the way, it's so weird. So what
Yeah.
happens is wherever I go, and I'm going to Columbus in a couple weeks, and I'm blessed to do all this, and I'm thankful to all the listeners because
Columbus, Ohio, or Columbus, Georgia?
Ohio.
Okay.
And but I just want you to know this, and
OH.
people who are listening,
Yeah.
is there's always going to be like a peppering, and I say that with tongue in cheek. There'll be a table usually of folks from some business or some church or something, and then there'll be a peppering of brown people, and there'll be a Syrian there, some we can count Greeks as brown, but you get my point. There'll be an Ethiopian or Afghan or Saudi. Someone will get to the table, Africans, and then they always go, "No, I understand this. I know this." And then I start toasting. They don't actually know it, but then I know what they're saying. Right? They're saying,
Yeah.
"I know this process of the banquet and the process of shvidoba, which is the Georgian word for peace. And I
Yeah.
know what this table will do to my soul if I allow it to happen." And then they leave always saying, "Thank you for this. It reminded me of home." And home was like Somalia or someplace.
Yeah.
And then you go, whoa. You know who doesn't say that generally? The people who are sort of suburban Americans. What they say is something like this: "That was so good for me." Which
Yeah.
is it's a similar idea, right? Which is that brought me back to something. And it's really interesting. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think we're
Yeah, but anyway,
united that way.
now that this administration is spinning it like asylum is bad. Already we have a broken immigration system that keeps hustler's the wrong word, earnest, hardworking people that want to make something for themselves. It's too hard to get them in this country, and now we continue to make it even harder to get those people in.
Yeah.
For those people, anyways,
Well, I'd just say
Jamaica was
this.
broken up by better things that we're talking about.
No, we're just
Yeah.
we told ourselves we were going to meander. I just wanted to get into your perspective as a kind of a Christican, and then not a Christican, and then a
Former
military man.
ex-Christian.
Yeah, and so let's end with just another quick topic, and then we don't have to end, but I think
I hope it's movies.
What's that?
I hope we're going to talk about movies.
Well, I want to do this.
Okay.
You're associate. We love you. You come to the restaurant. You've been at Tamada. What is the movie you're watching out there in America from the perspective that's different from mine as a parent? You have a parent of mixed race children, or there are different races within your family. What is the movie you're seeing? Is it a gentle movie? What is America to you as you see it? And then also, like, how do you guys sort it out? Which direction are we going?
Oh man,
Where
I got
should
some
we
dark
go?
answers for this now, based on the people I'm reading these days, or people I'm listening to or hearing to. So I'm polluted by what I just have been reading or watching the last couple weeks to the last couple years. But I just watched a really interesting documentary series on Martin Scorsese. And have you heard of a book called Silence?
I have.
Have you read it?
No, but I saw the film.
Yeah, the film, they do a pretty decent job with the film. The book is pretty profound, even if think of us all as Christ followers. You put denominations aside and everything, but it's super profound. And then in the book, the version I read, it was Scorsese writing the forward to it, and so it's written by a Japanese Christian, which is a very like that's probably more than any other culture off the top of my head. It's probably like Christianity is probably the most outlandish in Japan,
It's
perhaps,
pretty rare. Yeah.
arguably speaking. And
There's
but
there's
Scorsese has a
Orthodox.
Catholic. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Forgive me. Go ahead.
but anyway, Scorsese as a Catholic, he's like he'll never admit to being a good Catholic, but at the same time, he's like, I cannot stop believing. I'm not a good Catholic, but I can't stop having faith. And a lot of what he does, and a lot of his movies are controversial. I'm not saying I'm a fan of all his movies, but ultimately what he is trying to do is he's kind of trying to be like almost Dostoevsky, like showing the underground man, showing man at its worst. And there's some similarities with Russian shows in Scorsese where everyone ends up dead at the end of the movie. And so here we got a lot of, again, I know this from soldiers and stuff and young people. You got a lot of young men that look up to you, but there's a lot of people that like The Godfather or Goodfellas, such movies, right? And it's there's like an American machismo, like, yeah, control,
Sure.
do whatever I want, right? And then it's like the wrong things appeal to them, right? And they totally overlook the fact that lifestyle leads to death. That's the point. That's the ultimate point of the movie. Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah, like boats and ladies and drugs. No, but they die or they're messed up at the end. Like that lifestyle leads to death, right? And so I see that. So Scorsese is, when I think about the movie of America, I think Scorsese made it. Maybe it's The Gangs of New York. I haven't seen that one yet. But then there's also, oh man, what's the dude's name? The Western guy, Cormac McCarthy. You read much of him?
All the Pretty Horses. I haven't read The Road.
Yeah, The Road. I think you would like The Road. I mean, it's redemptive, and I think he's probably like Scorsese, like a Catholic that can't give up his faith. I don't know. He was a very quiet, private guy, but he basically. I don't know. It kind of goes back to like, America's a sinking ship, man, and it's not just America. It's like any country is a sinking ship.
So in that sense, I see what. So then, in that sense, will you say this, that the people who call themselves Christians in this country, do you think they're going to have to coalesce into something that looks more like a unified church in order to hold the thing together? But I know people, and I might argue this, and I mean, philosophers have argued this about America for a long time, is the nature of Christianity here is variation. It's in a lot of ways, it's how about this? It's deviation. It's constant deviation and change.
Spoken like a true Orthodox there, yeah.
Yeah, well, and I wonder if that kind of Christianity, that spirit of Christianity, I'm not even calling it a heresy, but I would if you put me a gun to my head. I wonder if that can survive.
I will say this, and I think it explains why I am ortho adjunct. But then I'll annoy you because I'll say I'm Catholic friendly too. But I don't. But again, I'm in my mind, the sheep and the goats are going to get separated, right? As Jesus says, and those who are trying to follow Jesus, and again, this is why to me your podcast is so encouraging. You might call yourself an Orthodox evangelist, but to me, you're just an evangelist. You and a lot of your friends and brothers, sisters you're bringing on board onto this call. I'm thinking about the doctor who talks about fasting, right?
Yeah.
Like they're just people who are trying to follow Jesus, and I think. I don't know. I mean, I think
I count you as one of those.
Yeah, it's the way, the truth, and the life. And if my wife was came from a hardcore Orthodox family, I think some denominations might get mad at me. I'm not sure about my current pastor, but I would I'll go Orthodox. Hardcore Italian, Polish family, if that's where my wife came from, and it was really important to them for me to be Catholic. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. I mean, I'm still following Jesus. Yeah, I mean, are you a good priest? Oh man, you're a shady priest. No, I want to find a church with a good priest. Like,
You know what happened to me
what's
about
up?
3 weeks ago?
What's that?
Maybe we can end with this, and I want to hear your comment on this. A friend of mine who's taught me a little bit about fundraising. Well, he's really smart, but a shout out to Ben. You know who you are, Ben. He doesn't listen to that. He's very Southern Baptist.
Mm-hmm.
His Southern philanthropy is his way of life. He understands. He raises money through the art of relationships. I love this dude. But anyway, I don't really get it, but I'm bad at it. But he invited me to a conference. It was a contained group, and not everybody could just go. You had to be kind of invited, and you had to pay some money. But he took care of it, and it was at Oklahoma City at the Hobby Lobby, the family of Hobby Lobby.
Mm-hmm.
David, what's his name? How can I forget this? Andrew, put it on the screen. Hobby Lobby.
Yeah,
the Green family. The Green
okay.
family. So the Green family is this down home, like Kansas Baptist raised family that also knows how to make dough.
Mm-hmm.
And you could tell they know how to make dough because at that conference, marketing was on fleek. Let's put it like that. And you're like, oh, these cats know the market. They understand the market. I wouldn't say they worship it because they were. And here's my takeaway: what you just said was what was being said there. There were 30 ways to understand everything, and then there was, in the end, just remember, you got to love Jesus and you got to share Jesus. And the thing that happened more than anything is if you want money from this billionaire company family, you got to share Jesus. But then I got stuck. You want to hear how I got stuck?
Yes, sir.
Because I think what they meant was share the Bible. I actually think that's what they meant because in my mind, when we send our guys to Mozambique or wherever, they are sharing Christ because they've basically given up their life. They've left their families. They stand still and they literally offer a hand to whoever is asking. And in so doing, they create projects on behalf and facilitate on behalf of local people. To me, that's Christic and Christ is being shared. But guess what? When I asked, they didn't agree. They were like, well, why don't you hand out Bibles? And what I started to realize is that when you say that just as long as they're following Jesus, it's a really true thing. And I agree with you. But man, what is that practical action? And there is still work to be done on that between Christians. And I would just say the Christian era is over in terms of the West. I don't really care. Like, I hope that you learn and I learn how to be together, but I'm just throwing dinners now. And in the end, it's like you said, it's going to sort itself out. But I do think serious Christians have to take that into account. When you say just, we have to live and following Jesus, there's more to it now. There's not because there's more to it theologically. Mm-hmm. There's more to it now because whatever's been shared as following Jesus, Westerners don't do it anymore. You guys are becoming in the minority. I mean, those who founded the West, those types of Christians are no longer the majority. So something's off with that phrase. As long as you're following Jesus, at least in terms of changing culture, because culture won't follow you guys anymore. Am I making any sense?
A little bit. I think, and again, we're guilty of like broad sweeps of generalities here, but we're going to go with that. I do think I'll say this. I do think in the Western church that is devout, Christian or legit, or a blend of the two, if that's possible, there's a lot of emphasis on reading and studying the Bible, which I think is wonderful. But there is the issue of the market, like being a consumer of information. Let's go to Bible. There's more emphasis on going to Bible study, getting your butt in church, having lots of Bible studies and fellowships, and almost like kind of isolating yourselves in almost a monkish fashion, like in Christian communities, homeschooling, Christian schools. Well, my kids go to Christian schools, so I'm guilty. Where that Jesus doesn't tell us to read your Bible. He tells us to follow me.
Yes, this is well said.
And I would say I would say there's probably 75% swagging, of course, people with God right now in heaven, so to speak, that who probably are illiterate and never read the Bible for themselves. Then
and you speak in my language. In fact, because 1,000 years of Christianity, literate people were few and far between. You couldn't find them.
Yeah, right.
So how did they all become Christian?
Right, and that's why I think historically there's such a sin power dynamic with traditional churches, which is what caused the Protestant Reformation, which then causes, to yours word, a deviation of that many more power structures and things as well. But yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about get off the movie theater seat at your church and follow Jesus. And again, I'm a pot calling the kettle black. I'm not good at this. But
by the way, me too. Again, we can accuse each other of stuff. I'm throwing that stuff out there because I think people like to hear, because I have a chance to speak to different kinds of people. So it's nice to speak to you and to hear what you say in the face of those kind of conversations. On the other hand, the conversation is never enough, but the supra. So I want to thank you for being a Keipi guy and throwing the supra. And I'm going to encourage everybody out there. Dan, you ready? Let's do it together. We'll encourage them. There's somebody out there right now who knows how to do supra. Either you're Georgian or you've been trained by one of us. Like there's a Daniel's out. There's a bunch of us that know how to do it. Call me, write me, say, I know how to do it. I want to do it. And then I'm going to sign you up, but you got to bring yourself here to Greenville. And you're going to take the Friday night seat. No, you're already one of them, but I'm inviting everybody out there to consider. There's a lot of you now that are like, yeah, I know how to do Tamada. And so I want you guys to write me and say, I'll come to Greenville on this Friday night and I'll be the Tamada. Yeah. And I would love people like Dan's already one of them. I don't know that you're doing it enough, but I'm not.
And I got
you're a family man.
I got my kids, man.
Yeah, believe me,
I know. My wife under the bus all the time.
But what happens is when we get those guys,
I bring them to Keipi, and you're never there, though.
I know. That's another thing. Don't out me. This is an invitation to all of you out there who like, I kind of want to do that. I know how to do that, but you just got to know what it is and how to do it. And then you can come, and it's crazy because you can watch all of humanity sort of encapsulated, and it's the image of humanity at one table of 25. And then you start toasting, and the stuff you learn, you've done it. The stuff you learn is nuts. So,
and to Daniel and team, if they're getting traction with you guys, if you're doing it on the road in support of Daniel and stuff, if you are in need of numbers, I don't know how I can fit in my schedule, but I'd love to be in your pool of
traveling Tamadas.
Traveling Tamadas, yeah, I think that'd be super fun to do.
That's a real thing. So I'll get you connected, guys. Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Horst. We'll get back into it in a future time where we can just like take apart your whole experience overseas. But I just wanted to introduce you to people because I think you have an interesting story, and you were willing to talk to me about Christicans.
Thank you, John. It's always a pleasure and a blessing to talk to you and be in fellowship with you.
Yeah, man. Love you.
All right. You too, bud. All right. We'll see you. Thanks.
Lieutenant Colonel Dan Horst. I always want to say whenever I say this, but Lieutenant Dan, you ain't got no legs. I did not say that. You ain't got no, wait, I can actually do a Forrest Gump. But Lieutenant Dan, you ain't got no legs. That's not actually it. If you'd like this to be over, all you have to do is hit stop. If you'd like me to continue, I will. In fact, I'll never stop. When the camera goes off, I just continue to talk to myself in the corner of my bedroom, aka this studio. I'd also like you, if you could, to consider First Things Foundation. Here's what we do. 2 years, learn local language, work a local job, until in the 6th month we are free to then know people well enough to work and facilitate their best ideas. www.first-things.org. Find out what we do, because basically what we do is serve other people. And then find out about our restaurant where we serve other people. Get it? Get it? If you know, you know. Get it? I love you. Next time on First Things Foundation's Heavy Things Lightly podcast, we interview President Barack Obama and President Donald Trump together right here in this studio. You don't believe me? Tune in. Find out. Go Marshals. That's it. Do what you want. Edit or not. I love you. I love you. It's true. I love you. And everybody knows when the sun grows, so do the plants and the animals. So do the streets and the cars and the human beings. They all grow. They all grow. When you love your neighbor, things grow. Wait, why did I? That was a weird accent. Do not put this in. Do not add this to the podcast. Ever. Goodbye.